Hello, this is Maximus Confessus here with my associates, Frank and Slim Jim. Inspired by the great American philosopher Henry Frankfurt and his analysis on bullshit, we are going to analyze the phrase from a philosophical viewpoint, too even. Lexically speaking, what does this phraseology entail? And why have those in Generation Z taken to it, especially the young female crowd? For opening thoughts, I'm going to turn to Frank. Frank, what would you like to say about the issue?
Well, we need to know that we're not merely saying too even. No, it's usually I can't even or can you even. It's very rarely to hear it in the case of too even. That's not quite the pronunciation with which we use the term. So that's a bad way to start right there, Max. I gotta say.
Right. It's always, unless I'm doing this dialectically, of course, because to get the ball rolling, too even, as you've said, would be to use it in a positive way, but it is always in a negative aspect. I can't even. Too even would
But we
be,
should examine what evening is. Yes.
yes. Too even is the positive, but the negative is the use. When we say we can't even, there's always an exasperation of something is coming across as being unbelievable. One can't bring themselves to react to such a circumstance.
I would qualify with that, Max. It's true that it's always in response to something which is unbelievable, but I don't think it's keenly about the unbelievability of the thing. You see, when somebody responds with some strange thing, something hilarious or joking or whatnot, people, the Generation Z goers, those kids, they don't merely say, "Oh, it's unbelievable, therefore I can't even." It's not something like that. Rather, it's more of like an expressivist response. It's oh my, I can't even, but it's more I can't evaluate it. It's more not so much I can't believe it. I mean, of course, you wouldn't be able to believe it, but it's more about the action that they are unable to do. They can't do any action in response to the thing. It's not merely believing. Believing is an action, to be sure, but it's more than that.
Right, like I can't even, to finish the whole statement, probably it refers to something of bothering. I can't even bother to respond to that.
Well, don't forget, though, this entire thing presupposes the existence of God. Because the statement's always preceded with OMG, I literally can't even.
But that's true.
There is some kind of Van Tillian, Bonsonian angle to this, if you will.
No, guys. I got as the room atheist, I got to disagree with that. You do not always hear it in conjunction with OMG. So sometimes it's OMFG. But even then, you don't always even hear either of those expletives. It's often, oh my gosh, not even oh my god. Sometimes.
Well, so if it was OMFG, would it presuppose the existence of a fertility goddess like Diana?
No. In fact, it goes to Van Til and what he's always said about the matter. For an unbeliever to even note the existence of evil, to attack God with, they have to first get on his very knee. So they have to appeal to the divine, as it were, to underscore how they can't even, and then slap him across the face with the F word intact there.
I have to disagree with you guys. You're bringing this conversation in the wrong direction. They do not always say OMG. Sometimes it's just I can't even. Sometimes it's just without that predicate. It's not even, and we don't need to presume that it's presupposed. We don't need to assume that it's implicit. We could just say that they can't even and not even bring God into it. I think you guys are going the wrong direction here. I gotta say.
Find me a 14-year-old girl that doesn't begin every dramatic statement with OMG, and I will grant that. I rest my case.
Let's also, and even if we were to grant that it's not there in all situations, which is true, you might hear it without that reference. Having that reference underscores to a much greater degree of how much they cannot even. So when someone
but in that case, they're using the OMG not as a presupposition. There's no cognitive content there. OMG is then expressive. They're not talking about actually God. It's just an emotion at that point. It's just this expressivist, like boo. Well, it's not boo this time, of course. It's like wow. It's more of a wow. It's not really God exists. It's just wow. I can't even.
And that's why atheism is so immoral. It comes with this whole doubt
I don't
of
know how you're going
the truth of morality right here. Thank you for showing us that, Frank. Thank you.
I don't know how you made that inference, Max. I don't
Nailing down
I feel
morals
you're not being
just
really scholarly here, Max.
but moving on, point has gotten contentious. Right. What? So a more philosophical question about this is: given that they cannot even, if if they were to be in a state where they were left alone to their own devices as a group or a clique, if you will, do you think that they could start to even?
Well, I think before we can ask that question, Max, we need to go through a number of example cases in which somebody says they can't even, and try to figure out what exactly they're excluding. Sense, and then we can figure out what the positive evening would in fact be. So let's go through that. When again, it's always in response to some hard to believe event, or something very funny, or something very terrible, or something socially awkward. It's always in some strong, something which brings forth a strong emotion, or something which is again hard to react to even. So perhaps that's what evening is. It's reacting to a thing. So we might say somebody puts forth an amazing a Gatling meme, and somebody responds, I can't even, because because Gatling, and I can't even with that, Max. It's become Gatling, but that's a perfect example of not being able to even. So again, I think it has a value. It's about performance.
The statement is self-contradictory, because if they are saying, if they're using it as a shorthand for, I literally can't even react, or insert X reaction here, isn't that a reaction in and of itself?
Yeah, which is why they don't. Which is why I suppose they don't add on a qualifier, that they stop at the evening, so that they don't enter into this contradiction. So when they say I can't even, there's a thought stop. They're not even going any further than that, because to go further would be to even.
You're right. You're right. In the English language, a sentence has to boil down to an object and a subject. Usually, those are criteria. There is something which the sentence is about, and there is something to which it is pointed or directed to, the object, if you will, something that informs you about the subject.
Which brings,
you don't say that English and Canadian.
Oh, right. So it's the phrase "I can't even." The subject is the person, and what they cannot do is the evening.
It's the indirect object. But the question is, what's the direct object? What is it that is the recipient of the even? And so the point is, if they were evening, there would be a direct object. But that would so it seems that there is this weird question, is whether or not when they say I can't even, this is just a slang way of hinting at a complete sentence. But if we take it more at its face value, as though it's a thought stopper, so they're not even completing the sentence. Whenever somebody says I can't even, it's not a complete sentence, and it's not supposed to be a complete sentence. Then what they're saying is I can't. There's no finishing of a thought. There is this first bit, and there's no further. And so when they say I can't even, the very phrase only has a partial thought, because to even is to be able to evaluate, to be able to act, to be able to do something.
Could it be that they can't comprehend? So they can't even comprehend it, and which would explain the action of not finishing the sentence, because when a sentence is unfinished, where there's nothing to which it's directed about, in this case, comprehension, doesn't that indicate that there's a simultaneous performance alongside the actual not comprehending of what's going on, like not comprehending how funny it might be? Oh, gee, I can't even. That is so funny. Or how dare you say that? I can't even. Like,
I believe you're latching on to something. I do believe it has to do with comprehension, but I believe it's more than that. If somebody says I can't even, and yet they can finish the sentence, then that would suggest that they can even, that they can even they can recognize their own miscomprehension. But if they say I can't even, it seems that that it's not so much the cognitive. There's a condition for correctness of usage here, right? So when you correctly use the phrase I can't even, it must be that the event which spawned you to make that statement, I can't even, must have influenced your cognition in such a degree that you can't so much as even complete a thought. So if you can complete the thought, if you can go so far as to say, I can't even comprehend this, then it seems you've misused the phrase I can't even, because you can do something, you can even, if you've finished the thought. To say I can't even is not merely to be able to comprehend something. I think incomprehensibility is part of it, but it's more than that. It is the very occasion of incomprehensibility has influenced you to such a degree that it actively prevents you from even recognizing your own incomprehension. But you only have a sense of your own comprehension. So you can say I can't even, because there is this sense of incomprehensibility. But it's not even that. It's not even that. It's not even so far as merely not being able to comprehend, but not even be able to comprehend your own incomprehension.
The inability to incomprehend your own comprehension. So in the live chat, somebody asks, "What is the ontology of to even?" I think we've touched on that as being the incomprehensibility of one's incomprehension. But a better question is one's inability to even a social construction. I think that is an issue worth touching upon.
I missed you there for a moment, Max. What did you say that we touched upon?
What we haven't touched upon is the inability to even. Is that a mere social construct?
I heard that before that, Max.
Oh, I don't recall.
Oh, but it was something about in response to the ontology. You said you said we had touched upon the ontology with, and then I missed that bit.
Oh, we had touched upon the ontology of not evening by saying that it's one's inability to finish a thought. It's the inability to comprehend one's own incomprehension. But
you suspect that there's a social construction to this.
No. I asked, is there a social construction to this? I want to get your opinions.
There might be. It might be that you can in fact comprehend your own evenness. You are aware of your own awareness. But you've constructed this inability. It's not a real inability. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to start saying I can't even. It would be more of a constructed inability. I'm not sure if that's the right way of looking at it. I'm not sure if that's how. I don't know.
I agree with. I think it's a hyperbolic statement that invokes the utter incomprehension of extreme reactions to prove a point.
That's fair.
Because I think most people that literally can even, but are instead resorting to hyperbole to illustrate how
the difficulty,
the gravity of the situation to which they are reacting or attempting to react.
That gravity is not quite right, I think, because something can be because you could be saying that you can't react to something which is utterly it has great brevity. In fact, it could be so light that you can't even. It could be this person is tootling a flute or some such when he's naked or something, and you see a picture of that, and there's no gravity to that at all.
Even
but they can't even. So I do believe that you're right, though. There is a hyperbolic aspect to it, but it's not in response to gravity. It's response to difficulty to comprehend. So it's a comprehensive aspect.
The gravity of their feelings towards it. I should have clarified that.
Well, that's one usage of the word gravity, but I would just say the strength of the feeling.
I'm speaking of this. Well, since we've already touched on the inability to even as an incomprehension of one's inability to comprehend, I have to wonder, is the distinction between comprehensibility and incomprehensibility the social construct that's going on? And the fact that we associate this, I myself did before going to the hangout, particularly with teenage girls, I have to wonder, is this distinction just really a social construct designed by men as a way to oppress women? Because for too long, we have always thought of women as the other, the incomprehensible. And by pushing this narrative of women not able to even, have we not just reified that?
No, Max, don't just think because I'm a stuttering person that I'm going to concede to your feminist wiles. I am not so sure that the oppression can determine fact, and I don't think that whilst perhaps some of the social mores and background of Generation Z's upbringing may in part influence the generation of this concept of evening. I don't think that the concept is in and of itself a social construct. I mean, beyond the fact that all words are social constructs, in a way. Well, not social constructs. They're
tools, have their usages.
Tools, yes, that's a better
right. But in terms of the ontology, I think everyone would agree that there is a state of mind in which one's brain is comprehensive and one's state which it is incomprehensive. That is the metaphysical distinction we might be bringing to the table.
I would agree.
Yes.
But it's not merely, whilst there is cognitive content, I believe, to this evening, I believe there's also expressive content added into that. So it's not, there is this responsivity, there is the correctness conditions of using it has to do with the expression of it. So there is this, it's not wholly, there's a grounding in ontology, but it's not right so much to say that it has an ontology, because there is this sort of expressivist flair, expressivistic flair to it. There is this emotional, emotional aspect. I'll say. I won't go much further than that because.
Yeah. Now I have to ask though, should we consider a spectrum maybe there isn't this comprehensibility binary of evening, but rather a spectrum of an ability to even and to not even.
That may be. Clearly there are correctness conditions in using the phrase "I can't even." There are certain times where it's just inappropriate to use the phrase. So if I am reading a book and I'm like, well, in the standard modal logics, the world are two-valued. So this is a textbook on logic. In the standard modal logics, the worlds are two-valued. I can't even. In the phone, that's not an appropriate way of using the phrase "I can't even." I can't even. I can't even. It's not appropriate. So the correctness conditions of using "I can't even" are there. Clearly, when you're reading a textbook and you can read through it perfectly and you're comprehending it to a decent degree, it is inappropriate to say "I can't even." But there might be places where it's not entirely clear whether or not it's appropriate to use "I can't even." So suppose you're very high and you look at a fan.
Right.
Now, a normal person, if they say, "Oh, look, a fan, I can't even," that's inappropriate. But if you're high, you couldn't even. And in that way, there's this degree, though that might be more of a contextual issue rather than a matter of degree of comprehensibility. Your ability to comprehend is more stilted in that case. So perhaps from the perspective of the person who's high, it's just like Gadolay in that way. So maybe I should try something else.
Maybe the contextualization is what determines the degree. So some people are in states of mind given a context where they could be higher or lower on the spectrum of comprehensibility. Thus,
What I'm saying is that in that context, the fan is just as incomprehensible as the naked guy tootling a tube. So from their perspective, and so what I'm saying is I'm trying to get at that in the scale. I want to imagine, well, what if you have a normal state of mind, and you have something which isn't as hard to even as a naked guy tootling a tube picture, but with or Gaelic, but it's still hard to comprehend. So suppose you have a very old meme, right? So the picture of the little girl in front of the fireplace. Maybe back in the day, before the phrase "I can't even" was really a thing. And speaking of which, we should perhaps in a future episode of this talk about what being a thing is, right? Oh, that's not a thing, but we'll leave that for now. If you've already seen the picture of the little girl smiling in front of the fire, you would say, you might be inclined to say "I can't even though you've already been desensitized to it, even though you even come in contact with it. But it may be that you're saying "I can't even" because even though you've seen it in the past, you still can't fully comprehend it. You haven't perhaps read all the blog posts about it and stuff like that in the history of the picture or something. So in that case, it's not as strong as the naked man tootling a tooth or Gaelic, but it is still hard to comprehend, and so it's still appropriate to say "I can't even." There is these. It's a fair application of the phrase, even if it's a weaker application. So in that case, yes, there is a degree, I think.
Right. Do you think there's a difference between using it in hyperbole and using it for an actual inability to even? Because we can envision somebody who is in a situation where they can, in fact, even. Like, let's say a young man discovers that his father has been cheating on his mother, and he says, "I can't even." But surely, who can't comprehend the idea of a cheating person, even if it is one's own father?
We haven't firmly established that evening is comprehending. It's related to comprehending, definitely. But as I said, there's probably this expressivist addition to it, which makes it's not perfectly and wholly based on that. So
yeah, but yes, but the issue
sure enough.
But the issue I want to touch on is it merely hyperbolic, or can one use it authentically in the sense of not being able to even? Like, they are literally not comprehending this moment because it is so overwhelming for them.
I suppose you could say that. Yes, there are cases where you're using it in a merely hyperbolic sense, and other cases, and perhaps it was originally meant that way. Perhaps originally it was always just going to be hyperbolic, but perhaps because it's evolved and grown into the common vernacular in such a way that somebody would be, on occasion of actual incomprehensibility, be inclined to just shout out "I can't even," even though they're not using it hyperbolically. But I don't think originally it was meant as a real thing. That's just part of the evolution of the term, if at all.
About the emotive feature of it, would you say that the emotive feature is one of a negative recognition, like a booing of sorts?
No, I would say it's wow. It's not a yeah or a boo. It's not moralistic. It's more I'm amazed. It's more awe. It's closer to awe. Yeah, but it's not quite awe, but it's like that.
I'm inclined to agree. It does seem to be an expression of just general surprise, not so much approval or disapproval. Although sometimes it is used in that context. Strictly speaking, I don't think it is that.
I think if one were to do a study, a majority of the time it would be used in either a negative or a positive way. I don't think anyone says "I can't even" in a way that they're neutral about it. I think someone would have to have.
I think it's either it's ambiguous, but I think it's usually there is going to be this undertone of negative or positivity.
Like OMG, the latest boy band Dream is so hot, I literally can't even.
Yes, so in that case, it's a negative. But on the other hand, you could say, naked guy who lead into it, you think it's hilarious, but you still can't understand it. In which case, you would say "I can't even." So Gaelic is hilarious to me. I can't even. So that's a positive valuation. But the thing is, it's ambiguous. So I don't know if it's in the meaning of the phrase "I can't even" itself, which is expressing this evaluation. I think that's more of a contextual thing. I don't really think it's tied to the meaning of the phrase "I can't even."
Big Gaelic, d.
I can't even.
Yes. Well,
see, there we go.
Well, I think that ends today's podcast. Thank you for sponsoring us, and thank you for viewing and staying with us on this most intriguing analysis. Join us next time, where we will take apart the expression OMG. Thank you and have a good night.